What's up, everybody? Welcome to Gregway. It's me, Greg. This is your July, your real July, Gregway. Of course, I was late, as I often am, for May. So I went up in, no, hold on, that's not how months work. I was late for June, so it went up in July, but then you needed a real July one. We're getting back on track, being on time. As many of you know, because you've been with Gregway, this tier for a long time, that I do things different. I've washed the dishes. I've shown around Animal Crossing. I thought about, I'm playing Persona 5, and I thought maybe I'd play Persona 5 while I talk to you. But then it dawned on me that I'm not in a place, I'm not like at the Mementos right now. Like I'm actually in a story section, so I'd actually have to listen to the game, so that wouldn't work. And I was like, maybe I'll play Animal Crossing. It's like, you know what? I feel like I like playing the games, obviously, because this is just a conversation. But I don't want to distract from the questions. So it's just me talking straight down the barrel to you. And I'm sure a lot of you listen as an audio listener. Actually, that's a great point. Everybody, I want you to tweet me and say either video, audio. That's all you say. At Game Over Greggy, video, audio. Which one how do you consume Gregway? Your exclusive show, because you support us on patreon.com/kindafunny. If this is your first time ever being here, hey, how are you? This is meant to be basically us ripping off Cup of Jones. If you didn't know, Brandon Jones used to work at a place called Easy Allies. Then it got shuttered, and it's just gone. No, he's still there. That still happens. But it's basically a way to talk to you and answer community questions that you guys submit for your exclusive Patreon show right here that I go on too long and I just rant and stuff on. So let's get into the rants. Harry writes in. It says, hey, Greg, long-time listener, first-time called. You mean caller. And then, so when you write it, you fuck me up. You fuck us both up. We both just got fucked. How's that feel, Harry? How do you and the team, that was on me. I fucked myself. How do you and the team deal with burnout and losing interest in the work you do? Keep up all the good work you do. Thanks. Heart back to you, Harry. I'm just joking around, obviously. This is a question we get asked a lot, I think. I'm sure other Gregways have tackled it too. I like, though, you put the wrinkle on it of, like, losing interest in the work you do. Usually people are like, how do you avoid burnout and stuff like that? And the answer is still the same. It's just that I think we are lucky enough to have awesome jobs that keep us on our toes and change every day. You know what I mean? If it was the same thing every day, and we were talking about the exact same stories, it'd be a different thing. But, I mean, look at this summer, right, of, I think of us as a video game podcasting company. Obviously, we do a whole much more than that. You're on the Patreon that has nothing to do with gaming. But this summer for games, right, the PlayStation 5 event, the Xbox event, the Avengers thing we just did today, like, there is something crazy happening each and every day that I think for us keeps us so on our toes, motivated. Let's go make something fun. Let's go be excited. Let's go see what this is going to be. Again, I'm going to keep using it. I'm sure there's a lot of examples for questions that come up. The Avengers thing today of like, wow, this actually looks great. And wow, I can't wait to play. And this is so much deeper and it's so soon and all this stuff. Like, that gets you juiced for that, which gets you onto another level. And then I carry that through. I just did Games Daily. Then I got this. And then I got Gamescast this afternoon. Like, there's a flow of energy there that is continuing with it. And that happens, obviously, if you have a bad day too, something goes wrong, it's hard to shake that as you go. But to avoid losing interest in the work we do, I think it's just that the work's never boring. No Kind of Funny podcast is the same as it was before. I think the most you could see maybe is when we were doing X-Men in review, and I hated those fucking movies towards the end. Like, even then, it's me talking shit about movies with my friends. That's pretty fantastic. Look at this. I'm overexposed, and I'm not going to fix it, because what I have to do, I've noticed for Games Daily is, see, if I drift over here closer to this light thing, I'm fine. But if I stay over here, I'm overexposed. But I have a Portillo, the king, in my lap. I'm not going to move him to worry about lights, am I, Porty? No, I'm not. I'm a good boy. So I hope that answers, Harry. Like, the work we do keeps us from getting burned out. If it was the same thing, it'd be a different story. I think, I always say I'm, the happiest because I'm the most focused when I'm on a show, because I get to focus on that one thing and not worry about an email and not worry about scheduling and not worry about what's coming tomorrow and not worry about this and that. Alexis Hall writes in, patreon.com/kindoffunny, just like you can, because this is a Patreon exclusive show, and says, I think Kind of Funny has been wonderful before and after COVID-19. But what do you think of people's thoughts that you don't really need a studio? Your shows have been great without a studio. On a personal note, my job, who had all of us working in an office beforehand, are now reconsidering what jobs can be done at home and making it permanent. Well, yeah, Alexis, that's a ongoing conversation at the world at large, right? Of like, our offices, the thing that are needed, and how does that work and how does that shake out? Obviously, I think we've proven through this thing that if we needed to, if we wanted to, Kind of Funny could easily be done remotely, and we could, not easily, but it could be done remotely, and you could work, and we could all do it from home, and we could do it from wherever we want to be. I don't want to do that. Tim doesn't want to do that. Nick doesn't want to do that. And I'm stopping there. I could go down the list and airing grievances or whatever. I don't know. But like in terms of the founders and who are charting the course for the company, for me personally, it's heartbreaking to think about. Like, what would a world where like IGN didn't work from an office feel like? And I'm not saying that's what they're doing. I have no idea what they're doing. But I'm saying like, if in my time this had happened and the thing came down of like, there's no more offices, all podcasts are online, you guys are just playing games from home, it's all digital, we can share the codes. All that's true, but I think you would lose such camaraderie and excitement and interest, like to take it away from that hypothetical of a giant team doing it, right? To now Kind of Funny. Remember, Kind of Funny is just 9 employees, and I know we like to put on amazing shows and have awesome graphics and we're going to this crazy studio that we're building, like, right? Like, we feel bigger than we are, but I hate this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. Thank God I have a job still. Thank God we're able to do everything from home. You know, I'm blessed to have an awesome apartment. You know, Jen's amazing. Lucy's amazing. We have a great thing here, all that stuff. But like the other day, you know, me and Blessing went to take photos of shirtless Spider-Man and shirtless Miles Morales. And just like getting to be in the room with him and see him in person and have an idea and go back and forth with it is so much different than going back and forth in a Slack conversation with an idea or seeing each other on the podcast. I do think that, you know, the shows are good. I don't think they're great. I think we do a lot of great content and, you know, we're all giving it our all. But like the whole, everybody starts talking at once and then, oh, you go. No, you go. Okay. Or even worse, everybody starts talking at once and you're like, well, I'll keep talking and Nick will stop talking. Okay, Nick's not stopping talking. We've gone too long. I'll stop. And then it's just like a nightmare. Those are little things, of course. But it is a big thing when making when our whole product is us talking to each other, when it's harder to talk to each other, let alone distractions. I fall, you know, prey to it all the time of, you know, I'm here and not for you right now, but I'm doing, and this is easier actually for me personally in a weird way, I guess. Like I'm doing the show to you, I'm doing to the camera, I'm doing to the spreadsheet here, right? But if I'm doing games daily, I'm actually looking down here so I can see Blessing or Gary, whoever I'm talking to in Discord, which also always leads to me looking back down here to go to the notes, but then I see a pop-up from Slack that I can answer. It's even worse on like a Gamescast or a Kind of Funny podcast where Kind of Funny podcast this week, Tim and Andy were really getting into Nathan For You and talking about that. And I'm listening to it, but I drifted away from being an active participant because like, cool, I don't know this show and they're having a really good conversation about it. So why not look at this email. Fuck, shit, that's happening. Okay, it's this. Wait, what about, and like, that's human nature and maybe just my own nature of being, you know, easily distracted. But like I've always talked about, like, I like going on the shows and walking into the studio and sitting down, and that is what I'm doing for that hour. That is what I'm doing for that hour and a half. And that's what I'm doing and just focusing on. We could do it. You know what I mean? What do you think of people's thoughts that you don't really need a studio? I think it goes back to a lot of people have a lot of different thoughts about Kind of Funny that I agree with or don't agree with, or criticisms I will take or I won't accept. And I think it comes down to the fact that, again, what you see from us is just such a minute part of what we do. It's such a tip of the iceberg in how it is. And, you know, for not to... a great example of it is today. Finished Games Daily. I knew Avengers would come up a lot. Finished Games Daily. Immediately opened Twitter. Started writing Barrett his tweets, the tweets that I want him to post for me. And I looked at Twitter, and our friend, of course, Khalif Adams from Spawn on Me, was like, "Oh shit, blanked on this Avengers thing. Does anybody have a link to it?" And it was like 2 seconds old. I was like, "Oh fuck, I'll give him ours." Went to our YouTube videos. Went into Video Manager, and it was there. No thumbnail, no headline, still private. And so I messaged Cool Greg, and I was like, "Can Avengers go live?" And he responded like, "Yeah, sorry, Premiere's shit in the bed. I'm doing this thing. It's just frozen." And I was like, "Cool." And then I immediately stopped everything I was doing. I went back to Slack, and I'm like, "Hey, I realize I only come to you when it's in a way that sounds like it could be interpreted as, hey, you're fucking up." I'm like, "You're never fucking up. That's never it. I'm just asking a question." And he responded like, "Oh, I know. I totally know." But like, we've lost that other kind. We've lost the other banter. First off, I don't see Cool Greg ever, right? He's never on any of the shows, and he doesn't really use Discord. So I do now suddenly only have this relationship where I come to him of like, hey, this video isn't working. Hey, why isn't this going on? Hey, what? Like, that's a fucking shitty boss, and I hate that. And granted, if this had to be full time and yada yada yada, and even for the however long we're gonna be doing this, I need to transition to be better about that. And there's a whole learning curve and yada yada. But like, when you're in the same room and I can walk over there with like whatever, the fucking Watto mask on or like the lightsabers in my hands twirling around, like, hey, and talk shit about WWE for a second, then be also, hey, what's going on with this? Like, that's a different vibe. That's a different cadence. Like, I think there are so many offices and so many different jobs that can go and not have an office and be great. And again, Kind of Funny could be, but I think we would lose something that makes us uniquely us. And that is that camaraderie and that best friendship. And the fact that, again, like, we're 9 people doing something fucking impossible. I don't think my team gets enough credit for that they kill it every day in a way that I never would have expected in 2015, let alone, I think if you told me on paper we would be not competing, because that's not the right word, but putting out the quality content we are, sometimes rivaling the quality of other people, and that's not a knock against anybody, but you know what I mean? Like, we can be seen on the same level as an IGN or a GameSpot with 9 fucking people. Like, that's ridiculous, and that's a Herculean task, and I like us all being together for that. And so, yeah, it could be, but I don't think it would be the same. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things about it. Like, you know, because your question, Alexis, is very much like, what do you think of, you know, people's thoughts? Like, I think there's a million people have a million thoughts on what Kind of Funny could be, but that's not what we want Kind of Funny to be. And I think that's what it comes back to. It's like, yep, we could do this forever. We could all break apart. I could go to Montreal. We could, and then we start getting into how internet speeds are and how much latency there'd be that far apart and yada yada yada. But like, long and short of it is that's not what we want to be, and so we're still fighting for what we want to be. Jacob Meyer, a.k.a. Wakeum, says, Greg, I know you hate Muppets, but what do you think of the classic film The Labyrinth? And can you please call Elise right now and apologize for everything you probably just said? Thanks. You know, I give Muppets a hard time because, of course, they're silly, and I don't understand why adults like them so much. But, of course, I'm just fucking around. I have my own obsessions and whatever. I have seen Labyrinth. If you didn't know, What's Good Games? Christine Steimer, a huge fan of Labyrinth. So when we were dating way back in the day, she showed it to me, and it was one of those, oh, cool. That's a movie, all right. Like, I mean, like, it just, I didn't hate it or anything, but, like, that's a childhood movie, right? Where you see it as a kid, and that has a huge effect on you, and you go back and watch it as an adult, and it's just like, oh, cool. Goblin Baby or whatever. Goblin King. David Bowie's dick. All right. A movie I saw. Never thought about again. So there you go. Sorry. I won't apologize to Elise Willems. Get out of here. Christopher Thorstad writes in and says, have you been able to keep working on the studio during the COVID-19 pandemic? Have you, Tim, and Nick started making any plans for next year in terms of if you can or can't work out of the studio? We have been able to keep working on the studio. I know, obviously, one of the when we started this and it was a different kind of 2020, the idea was I'd be able to give you a studio update and take you through it and show what's going on. It's like, that's such a hassle, seeing as how we're so far away, and like I have to do Gamescast a little bit, and it's like the floors are polished and the walls are painted. Like, that's where we're at right now. Things are still progressing. We just ordered the video panels for it, so we're getting ready for the new crazy video wall. Like I said, floors are done the way they wanted them done. The walls are done the way they wanted them are. The bottleneck we've run into is with the planning and zoning stuff, where Nick to the credit of the city, great people inside the planning department. Like, they were super responsive when this all started, and they were like, oh yeah, this is what you should do, and you should do that, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, oh my God, thank you, this is so great. And then, of course, pandemic hits, everybody starts working from home. It's a different kind of system than people. I think I'm talking out my ass a little bit here. I think some people got furloughed that were in things. So it's like, there's a bottleneck on that part of it. But everything is still moving forward, and we are still doing it. Have we had conversations about next year in terms of if we can or can't work out of the studio? Yeah, I mean, the full disclosure is that we're doing this working from home for as long as we feel it's necessary to keep our team safe. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. My dad asks every weekend, because my dad's a very nice man and, lives in a different part of the country, and I don't think fully understands what we do. But he's always like, yeah, like, oh man, any plans to go back? And I'm like, plans still the same, Dad. Like we're not, why even put, why put a timetable on this? Why tell you guys, like, our plan is to be back there in November, which is I just pulled out of my ass, of course. No, that's not the plan at all. The plan is to work in there when the studios, going back to the old studio or starting at the new studio. The plan is to do that when we are comfortable that everyone will be safe and we won't be exposing each other, our families, our loved ones to this virus any more than you have to. And right now, we don't have to do that. I think the quality of what I want, this isn't the background I want for the show. This isn't the presentation necessarily of myself that I want for what we're doing. And it's not the, like a talking over each other thing I just talked about. I don't think it provides the best quality of what we want to do. It's not bad, but it's not the best. But all that is completely secondary to making sure we can go there and nobody gets sick or takes the sickness home to somebody or, God forbid, hurts somebody in their family with it. And I don't want my team exposed to that, and I don't want to expose myself to it, and I don't want to do anything that could jeopardize who we have here. You know what I mean? Taking care of these 9 13 if you want to include all the part-timers. That's what it's all about for me. And so, yeah, with the conversation we've had is we do this for as long as we need to until we are confident we can go back and not ruin each other's lives. So we'll see. And so, it is what it is, right? All right, Porty's leaving. Bye, buddy. It is what it is. And so I wish I had a hard answer, but I think we've all learned that hard answers and phases and openings and shit like that just doesn't fucking matter. So why would we put one on there? The idea is, that we have a lease on 2 places right now, 2 studios, which is great. And hopefully when the one expires, we'll hopefully have a brand new studio to move all the posters and shit into. And I should say the studio completely installed and ready to go. And if it isn't, then we take the old studio and install it into the new studio and wait for the new studio to be up to where it needs to be and all these different things. But I watched Danny O'Dwyer's No Clip video yesterday during lunch of him saying goodbye to their studio space. And it was like they moved there in October and they have to lose that. It's like, oh my God, but I understand it, right? It is that thing of right now, if we really wanted to, I guess we could go break the leases and do all that stuff and run through those legal hurdles, but that's not what we envision. We still need a spot for all the crap we have, but on top of that, we do one day expect to pull out of this and be able to go there. All right. Mizuki says, "Hey, Greg. With working from home seeming like it will continue for a lot longer, do you see the Kind of Funny up-and-comer program happening this year? I know you need to take care of your staff and part-timers right now, so zero judgment. I'm just curious where your thoughts are on it at the moment. Thanks for everything." Yeah, so if you're maybe a new Kind of Funny fan, because I know so many people have come over recently, and that's awesome, and thank you. It's amazing. We love you and couldn't do without you. Last year we did a program called the Up-and-Comer program where we asked the community, hey, who's doing amazing work that you think needs a platform? It was part of the other thing we've been doing, which is also kind of called Up-and-Comer, but we never came over there, of bringing smaller creators onto Games Daily and being like, oh, man, let's introduce you to the world. We for our anniversary stream in 2019 pushed that a step further with the Up-and-Comer program, where it was like, if you hit this milestone, and then we add another one, we'll bring a person out here, we'll put them up, we'll pay to fly them here, we'll pay to put them up, we'll feed them, and they get to make content with us all week. And so we did it with of course Chloe Naylor, Echo Chloe from the community, who does all sorts of cool stuff. She did it for Kind of Funny, and then we brought out Blessing Eddie Oye Jr., who turned that into a full-time job the next year. And so, yeah, we were prepared to do that again this year, obviously, and people had already started campaigning and doing their stuff, and then 2020 kind of burned the hell down. So, Mizuki, no, that idea has been punted until, again, it's safe to travel and do it. I understand 100%. We could do it of hey, why not do it and have it that you just call into the shows and you do this thing and blah, blah. For me, part of the special sauce to the Up-and-Comer thing for Chloe and Bless was bringing them here, and it was immersion, right? It was the best way to learn is to be there. And I think, again, this isn't, and it kind of sounds snarky, maybe. I don't know. I had hoped you'd know that I'm not that kind of person. But earlier with the, you only understand a tip of what we do, the tip of the iceberg of what we do. It was that idea of bringing people out here to see, this is what it's like to work at Kind of Funny. This is what it's like to be a part of it. Having them just call in to be guests on shows, I think, for a week doesn't have the same ring to it for me. I don't think it gives the same experience. The idea was to bring them out, have them be able to learn and be immersed in what we do so that they get better at doing what they do, and we get to see, somebody from the community succeed, which we continually try to do here. So, no, that just the Kind of Funny Live presents the studio opening party, right? Those are both on ice, I would think, till, hopefully, knock on wood, 2021, when everything's back to a somewhat normal, or the new normal, where people can travel and not worry about, the end of the world. But for sure, they're not on my radar of things to worry about right now with everything else we have going on. So, super sad, but 2020 in a nutshell. Excuse me. Alex writes in and says, "Hey, man, hope you and yours are doing well. After a disruptive year of teaching due to COVID and Hong Kong protests, I'm forcing myself to take time to treat myself. Massages, dining out, lazy days gaming, etc. If you could have completely free day or weekend, expenses paid, etc., what way would you like to completely unwind and treat yourself? And when's the last time you treated yourself? Thanks and stay safe. Alex, a.k.a. Gamer Teacher." For me, it would be playing games, for sure. That's what I live to do, right, in terms of my main enjoyment, my main recreation, my main hobby is games, right? So, me, even as amazing as my job is, right, there are those days where oh, man, I want to finish this podcast and go play a game. oh man, I want to do this. It's what it's why I'm not on In Review for every episode of In Review, because frankly, I don't like watching stuff that much. I'd rather play stuff. And so if it's not a movie that I really want to be watching, it suddenly gets in my head of like, oh God, I wish I was playing a game. Like, this is fine, this is whatever, but I don't care. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it would be that. It'd be lazy gaming. Probably some wings and pizza there for dinner, hanging out with Jen. You know what I mean? And I'm lucky enough that happens all the time. That, especially, Jen, obviously an amazing partner who understands my nerdy obsessions. So, like, when it is that there is something big coming up, like, so I always joke around about how Jen drags me hiking. And so usually we go out hiking on Saturday mornings and we're out to like, 1 or 2 or whatever. And maybe noon. It depends on the hike. And then I come home and I'll just play games all afternoon. And then we do, groceries or whatever. We cook dinner, we hang out. I've already called it for Avengers weekend, September 4th. I'm like, I'm not hiking on that Saturday. That Saturday, I'm not hiking. I'm like, I don't care if I get it early. I don't care, whatever. I'm not hiking that weekend. I'm just sitting there and leveling up these characters. She's like, okay, honey, whatever you say. You know what I mean? And like, so I have those, and I do treat myself to those often. Ghost was another one of those with Ghost of Tsushima. I was having so much fun on that game, but I did have the review embargo that it was like, hey, this weekend I'm just doing this. Like, I need, and that's a bit work, I know, but like, it's also not in so many. I mean, anything I do is content, right? Like, when's the last time I did something that I was like, I'm never going to talk about this or share this with anyone? Like, that's not how it works. So it's a little bit mixing column in A and B, but like for me, it's playing games and just hanging out and being chill and being with Bordy and Jen. Jacob Solo writes in and says, hey, Greg, no question. Oh, thanks. I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to give me a call when my friends met you at the GameStop Managers Expo in 2016. Really meant a lot to me. Jacob Solo, no problem. That's one of my favorite things. First off, thank you for writing in. That's always one of my favorite things where I love period when somebody meets me and they're like, oh my God, my friend would really, and I'm like, oh, let's fucking call him if I have time. And we call him and, I do the beyond and I yell at him or whatever. Love that. But I love the reactions to that. I don't often get those. There was one at DICE this year. God, that was still this year, February, when you could still travel, and ran into a woman from the video game industry who knew of me but wasn't a fan. But she's like, I work with a guy who's a fan. I'm like, oh my God. And she's like, his game just came out. I'm like, oh my God, let me call him. So I called him and kind of forgot about it. And when I got back to my room later after rehearsals, I think, I checked my phone and someone on the other end in the office with him realized what was happening and filmed him talking to me. And he's just like, uh-huh. Yeah, and it's because that's that, like, when you're on the other end of a call and it's like, yeah, you're like, oh God, does this guy really care? Did they misinterpret this? But then when you see it, he's like, oh, he's stunned. That's awesome. That's cool. No problem. I love that. I love the fact that for some reason all y'all's celebrity bar is so low that you care when I call you or address you. But I appreciate it and love you very much. Kebabs writes in, says, long time lurker, first time writer. Fuck off, Kebabs. How's the old upstairs studio doing? Well, I know you guys won't be visiting it anytime soon. What has been done to help keep it in ship shape while you guys are away? Thanks, and keep being awesome. Oh, we visit it all the time. I would say Nick's there at least once a week. It's also like our dead drop zone of Blessing has that whiteboard and markers I want for Inception, so he's gonna go drop those there, and I'm gonna go get them. And when I do that, I have a bit for KFA if I'm gonna drop there for Nick and Andy. Like, people are there. Blessings done demos there. Obviously, we filmed the Gorilla Collective there. Like, by no means is someone there nonstop 24/7 or anything like that, but like, we are using it to film things. We are using it as an escape when you do need to get off there and do something. In terms of it being in ship shape, like, that for sure isn't the case. Like, Kevin ripped out the brain, the computer, the main computer to take home to make sure he could stream everything there. Andy's desk is torn apart because I think he took his computer and monitors home. Actually, I think the monitor I have here might be one of Andy's that Nick stole from me. Like, if tomorrow they were like, guess what? Adult Swim's over, everybody back in the pool, we would be like, oh shit, like, it's going to take us a while to get that place up and running. But it's there. It's good. We still check in and do stuff. Obviously, the shirtless Spider-Man, shirtless Miles Morales photo shoot, Blessing and I helped. I took the photos, Blessing did the lighting. We did it there. So people are still there. It's still kicking. I think the maid still comes through every so often too. It's fine. Don't you worry about that place. Krajuki writes in, patreon.com/kindoffunny, like you can. I don't know why I say it, because you know that. You obviously are part of the show. Hi, Greg. Have you ever had roast beef as a pizza topping? Roast beef and hot peppers is my go-to, and I feel like it might be up your alley. Cheers. Grajuki, I haven't had roast beef, but I've had Italian beef. Of course, Chicago, big on the Italian beef sandwich. If I'm not getting a hot dog at Portillo's, I'm getting an Italian beef, and sometimes I'm getting both of them. And then, of course, for Chicago pizza, you could do deep dish with it, of course. But I'm just talking about your thin crust party cut, where it's cut in squares. For me, yeah, you get a Rosati's Italian beef pizza. Oh, doctor. Yeah, Rosati's is more a chain. Well, it's not a chain. It's a family-owned, multiple restaurant location, takeout, carry out, or delivery carry out pizza place. In the Chicagoland area, there's one in Missouri, which was really weird when I ran into it. Doesn't matter. They do a great one that you can get anywhere, right? But then if I had my pick of the litter, I would go to downtown Glen Ellen, go to Baroni's, and do their Italian beef pizza. They do it with the Italian beef. They do it with the hot peppers on there, and it's fucking phenomenal. So if you have the means, do that. Think of me while you eat it, because it's a delicious pizza, and you're right, Krajuki. Kale Dolphin Corn, of course, frequent contributor, writes in and says, "Hey, Greg, I had kind of a personal question. If you aren't comfortable answering it, then please just ignore it. Don't you worry. I'm an open book. Have you ever questioned your sexuality? For a woman like myself, I feel like I should like guys, and I have tried to be with guys, but I am 100% lesbian, and I just can't find men attractive. I know that you're married now to the love of your life, but is this something you ever struggled with? Thank you for being such a badass. Kale Dolphin Corn, heart. Heart back to you, Kale." Well, this is an interesting question, right? I guess I see it, because I'm like, it doesn't sound like you're struggling with your sexuality either. You're 100% lesbian, but I see what you mean, the struggle of like, I should try to like guys. I should try to do this. I should get out of your head and get into mine. Sorry. It's a boring story. No, sadly. I've definitely seen plenty of guys. I'm like, oh, you're very handsome. You know what I mean? But I've never been drawn in a romantic way to a fellow guy. And I think that's just because of sexuality. Like, you know what I mean? Some people have it easy and know exactly what they want and what they're attracted to, and that's that. Some people struggle with it and feel like they have to fit into another box before they find that. Other people, don't struggle with it and, you know how sexuality is. It's a scale. I was going to say don't struggle with it and just love everything, but I'm like, no, they probably struggled with that there. I'm, again, 37-year-old white straight dude. I don't understand all the struggles of coming to terms with not being what is termed normal, right? So I obviously want to make sure I'm not trying to represent my LGBTQ plus friends. So I'm not trying to here at all. I'm saying that everybody has their own struggles with it. For me, no, it was never a thing for me. Also, I should point out, sorry, too, and this is just, it's always something where I don't want to ever offend. If you're an audio listener, when I said normal, I put it in quotes, signifying that's bullshit, of course. But if you're not, after I did it, I was like, wait, if you're an audio listener, I was just like, well, normal. Or did I say quote unquote normal? You know what I mean? What I'm basically saying is fucking throw a lot of shit out the streets. Be cool to each other. Everything's great. But no, Kale, I'm sorry. I don't have a cool story to tell you of this one time at the summer camp where I fell in love with a boy. You know what I mean? Because I love plenty of dudes, but it's just obviously never been sexual for me. But, for everybody who's listening who's struggling with it, or in a similar position of Kale, who's like, I know I'm supposed to like this, but I like that. Like that. Do your thing. Don't worry about it. 2020, we got bigger fish to fry. And of course, that's easy for me to say again, because my fish never really needed to be fried. They were pre-fried, and I just did whatever I had to do. But you understand what I'm saying. Basically, I'm saying I love you. I'm sorry that if it's rough for you. Anakin, JMT, writes in and says, that's a long one. I'm going to take a sip of water. Anakin says, hi, Greg. First of all, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your answer a few months back on Gregway about being divorced and getting over it. It was really helpful for me, and I also appreciated Jen popping in to give her thoughts. So please, please, please thank her for me. Jen! Her door's closed. She might actually be in a call. Fuck. I might be in trouble here. I know Twitch has been and will probably always be your go-to for live streaming your content, with YouTube only being used for live recordings of Patreon shows. Have you guys talked about doing some kind of interactive show live streamed on YouTube where people can donate super chats to have their questions or comments read aloud over the air? It could be used for something like In Review, where people can ask their own questions or point things out the guys don't mention. I know sometimes you'll look at the live chat and mention something you see, but it could be a neat way to have more interaction with the community, at least for one show. Maybe for a post show or of a game, conference, or digital event. Could also be a way to raise money. So he's going through, Anakin's going through examples here. Sorry for the long question, and thank you again for all you're doing. Keep being awesome. I will try to keep being awesome. It is a struggle, of course. However, no, we haven't thought about that. We like just about everybody, and I use that loose again because I'm talking on my ass a little bit. We have our Twitch thing has an exclusivity thing where we're supposed to stream with Twitch. Or maybe it's that we can't stream. Shit, I might be wrong about that. It might be that we can't stream to both at the same time. Yeah, that, whatever. The long and short of it is no. The problem with Kind of Funny that many people have, I shouldn't say that. One of the problems of Kind of Funny that many people have pointed out, right, is that we just point you in a lot of fucking different directions. Whether it's go to Patreon, go to the other Patreon, go to the YouTube channel, go to the other YouTube channel, go to twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, but follow on or twitter.com/kindoffunnyvids. Like, there's a lot of information. And so really shaking it out that way and making another destination, another thing around it gets cumbersome. You know, I see what you're saying. Obviously, Twitch chat, you know, depending on the show, people do look at and try to bring it into it. For the post-show gaming things, I personally think it works out fine that I'm able to go, we're doing, you know, PS I Love You as the post-show to the PlayStation event, so get questions in live, and I'll be looking at it there. I hear you. I understand you. But I think, again, to what I think maybe is from the top of the show, the vision of it is we don't have a show we envision that way. We could. There's a million things that could happen. But right now, we like what we've got in terms of a stride, and so I think we'll stick with that. Granite Cold, which is a dope fucking name, writes in and says, long time, first time. With the new Kind of Funny Xcast, will we see Alana and Snow Like Mike appear in more Kind of Funny content, whether it's Games Daily, Gamescast, KF Crew playing games, and or anything else Kind of Funny has to offer? Yeah, I think you've already kind of seen that, right? Granted, I understand these questions come in throughout the month, so it's not like it just happened. But obviously, you know, Snow Like Mike came on the Xbox reaction stream with us. Oh, yeah, I'm thinking of Funhouse Week. You know, Alana obviously has done Games Daily before. She'll do it again. Snow Like Mike has done it before. He'll do it again. I think, yeah, expanding our roster with the part-timers in the Xcast definitely opens the door to, you know, okay, cool, especially when we can if we know it's going to be an Xbox heavy show or something to that effect, bringing them on, or just, hey, we, you know, need somebody, where do we want to go? Obviously bringing somebody on from one of our shows makes sense to be like, okay, cool, this is what's happening and I haven't caught up with you. I was thinking, you know, today again, as of this recording, which you should get pretty quickly, you know, there's been 2 episodes of of Xcast. However, I haven't done a show with Gary since he started that. So today to catch up with him a little bit about that and talk to him about that is cool. And so, yeah, I think, you know, being able to cross promote and bring people in and remind all this other stuff, that's cool. And so, yeah, I think you will see it. You know, again, they're part-timers, so we want to make sure we're paying them for their time. So it's always, okay, cool. We want to make sure we're as busy as Alana is. You know, and Mike is too, obviously, with having a job. It's something we'd want to do. I think your Games Daily would be, yeah, the thing you see them probably most easily slide into when it's time. Mitch Craston writes in, patreon.com/kindoffunny, just like you can. I'm checking the time to make sure I'm not late for anything. And says, are you planning on trying to platinum Predator Hunting Grounds? I'm working on it myself, and the 1,000 kills one is brutal. Also, what are the odds of that Predator tournament happening with the community? That sounded super helpful, and I have a couple of friends interested. Thanks. Number one, I would love to platinum Predator. But that is one of those that if it happens, it happens. If I notice all of a sudden I was getting close, that's when I might put a, you know, pedal to the metal. But by no means am I going to sit there right now and be like, I'm playing Predator every night and I'm doing this thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just not how it is for me. Like, I like getting in there with our group. I like, you know, when they do double XP weekends, I really love that game. But I'm not going to push it. It was the same thing with Friday the 13th, where I would have loved to have Platinum Friday, but like, there are so many fucking time-consuming, like, just numbers games. There's do this, you know, like you said, 1,000 times for kills and stuff, to the point that I'm like, I'll let it ride. And if I notice, if they continue to support it in 2 years from now, I'm playing and I'm like 1 trophy away, then I'll be like, all right, let's double down, let's go for it. But otherwise, no. And then, yeah, and the odds of the Predator tournament happening, which, if I remember correctly, was that we were gonna get teams. I really don't remember what we pitched on a stupid stream, I'm sure. Not that you're stupid or the idea is stupid, but like in the middle of something where it was going to be that everybody tried to hunt me and I had teams of 4 come at me. There's not a prayer, Mitch. We don't have the bandwidth to organize that with our normal daily workload, sadly. I'm sorry. It would be cool. And I know I could reach out to somebody in the community and they could do it too, but it's just like, there's just no time. There's just not enough time with all these consoles and games and everything else happening. Sabby writes in, or Sabi maybe, sorry. Oh, okay. I looked ahead on this month, and this comes back. It's basically asking about. This is gonna sound really stupid, but I'm not joking. I swear. I'm mostly not. When's episode 2 of Kevin and Greg Eat a Pizza? I've been waiting 4 years for the follow-up to this masterpiece of kind of funny content. If you don't remember, a long time ago, Kevin and I decided we were gonna make a show called Kevin and Greg Eat a Pizza, where every week we would eat a pizza on Facebook Live and like review it and just shoot the shit. And we did 1 episode and never did it again. so I call this out that you've done this one, Sabby, because hold on, this is gonna be hard for me. No, there it is. Then I hide the time codes. Sabby comes in and goes, "Holy fucking shit, Greg! I asked about Kevin and Greg eat a pizza." As I write this, I'm listening to the Kind of Funny podcast. It was recorded on the 21st, and Nick brought it up to Kevin, and Kevin seemed excited about it. It's got to happen now, my dude. Much love. Can't wait for your future pizza-related endeavors. Don't hold your breath on that one. I don't remember that podcast moment. We joke around about it all the time, but if that would ever happen, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever do it again. But it definitely seems like something on an Extra Life stream or a anniversary stream at like hour 8 we could definitely do. So don't hold your breath. But yeah, there's no official Kevin and Greg eat a pizza return plans. Calvin B writes in, "Hey Greg, so do you ever think you will go beardless again, or trim it down to a 5 o'clock shadow, or maybe even a goatee? Not that I don't think you need any of these. I like the current look. I'm just curious. I myself have a beard and don't see myself ever going back to shaving unless I had to. (Parentheses like 2 jobs ago when the most I was allowed to have was a trimmed goatee. I remember when you first started to grow it out. It took a few seconds for me to get used to it, but that went away after a few weeks." Took me a few seconds to get used to. All right. But some reason, though, every single time I see old videos of beardless you, I feel like it takes you way longer to get used to, and I don't know why, lol. I'm sure it's probably just me, though. Anyway, thanks for all the years of entertaining content you have and are providing the... Oh, sorry. No, that's not what he said. Oh, you... Yeah, for best friends. No problem. You're welcome for the content. Beard, yeah. I definitely like the look more than I like beardless Greg, and I don't think you're alone. And when you see a photo now of me without the beard, it's just like, whoa, that's so fucking weird. It's such a weird... I think this aged me up so much, too, in a good way, where I think babyface Greg really made me look super, super young. And the amount of people who now are like, oh, my God, Greg's got the Reed Richards thing. I'm like, I was always gray. You just didn't see it for some reason in the other shots. Also, it's more exhausting than ever, and I'm sure I'm graying faster and yada, yada, yada. But the babyface distracted. But I don't miss it, so one day I'm sure on a lark I'll shave it into a stupid mustache and a stupid like handlebar thing. It'd be ridiculous, but for the future, I mean, I never say never. Obviously, one day I'm going to shave it for something, but I have no plans to shave it anytime soon. Arvel writes in, of course, friend of the show, comic book fan, and says, "Hey, Greg. You've mentioned multiple times how Superman was your inspiration to eventually become a journalist. Now, as you've been a journalist writer for over a decade, do you think differently about the portrayal of journalism in those comics? And what is your favorite Superman story that focuses more on Clark Kent doing actual journalism? (Parentheses, because it would be quite easy for Superman nowadays to slide into full-on cancel culture Alex Jones-style journalism against Lex Luthor if he could not beat him as Superman. First off, Superman would never do that. Arvel. He has a moral compass. He wouldn't go into this crazy smear campaign against Lex. He'd go dig up the real information about it and stop him that way. P.S. This is a strange thought that popped up in my mind during a 3-hour drive, and I thought you'd be the expert for that kind of question. So, do I think differently about the portrayal of journalism in the comics? Of course, man. What a fucking scumbag Clark Kent is. You can't be a journalist reporting on Superman and not disclose that you are Superman. A huge fucking red flag. Honestly, it was one of the few things I thought I really like in the current continuity that Superman's revealed his identity and that he is Clark Kent, and he loves working at the Daily Planet. He is Clark, obviously. So Perry fired him and then rehired him. That way, it could be that now I know that you're Superman, that you have these abilities. Like we can, it was insurance stuff. But I really wanted there to be a conversation of like, I'd love to rehire you. I can't fucking rehire you. You violated journalistic ethics by doing this. They didn't do that because obviously that's a sticky situation that wouldn't be that much fun for most readers to read as much as I think it would be. So yeah, I look back at the story. Because again, like the stories I'm looking back on and like as a kid thinking about getting into journalism. And again, I always talk about it being like, I think in a very subconscious way. Like I always wanted these glasses. I always wanted to be a journalist. I always wanted to wear a shirt and tie. Like I think like that's all Clark Kent. I think that's what I'm talking about in terms of him making me want to do something. It's all of the subconscious thing. But like for the most part, his journalism stuff is just helping people, right? Which is what Superman wants to do, but it's also what Clark wants to do. It's about helping humanity, helping those less fortunate, righting injustices, stopping the bad guys from winning, whether it is with the pen or with the sword. And I think that's very powerful, obviously, for the Superman mythos and for who he is. In terms of my favorite story that focuses on Clark doing actual journalism, man, I never took the interpretation to that level, right? Like there's a bunch of him helping kids, like Clark, reporting on orphanages that were abusive and stuff like that, or like kids in suicide slums. That stuff always worked really well for me. More recently, and these are super recent, I guess, actually, but like I think it's really cool. I guess it's more Lois' story. Lois is always the one who has the best stories for journalism, right? She's the one who's always bringing justice to everything and stopping everything. I think Greg Rucka's Lois Lane miniseries that DC just got done doing is awesome. Or maybe it's still going on, actually. I'm behind on my poll list right now. I think Gene Yang's Superman versus the Klan is really good, right? But again, that's Lois doing the lion's share of it. A good Clark story, right? I don't have a good one for you because I think so many times it's pinned. No, no, I don't want to. I think Lois deserves all the credit. Give Lois the credit for all the great stories she's done. Patrick writes in, "Hey Greg, hope all is well with the family and team. With the recent announcement of the Kind of Funny Xcast, it seems people came out criticizing the decision of the people who were involved. I don't get it. For one, Mike and Gary have always been tied to that show. And for two, I think Kind of Funny has been great at elevating and supporting different voices. Kind of Funny has worked with and or paid Andrea, Danny, Gary, Kevin, Blessing, Andy, Joey, and Alana, plus others. I'm not sure why people are complaining. I don't have a question, I guess, but I wanted to speak up and say thank you and keep being great. Much love, Patrick." No problem, Patrick. First off, I love the fact that people love Kind of Funny enough to criticize it and have questions and have concerns and want to follow through on things. And so I would like to think our track record for hires and for casting and all that stuff speaks for itself. But I also understand that, we're in a different time right now where there need to be conversations about that. And I think, again, back to this team of 9 idea, right? It's about we're trying to build something here, right? And we're trying to build it with the right people to make a foundation to elevate everyone that we can and do everything we can to make games better and make the internet better. I want to bring in Nanobiologist, who's the next question, has a very similar question, different take. Nanobiologist says, "Hi, Greg. During the Do Better stream, you brought up that KFGD had to be only 2 people. Why is that? Is it just not possible to adapt the show to include a third chair that could be used as the chair to highlight minorities or marginalized people in the industry? Are there other plans in the works to continue highlighting marginalized people with Kind of Funny's platform, especially during this extended quarantine period, beyond just the week of highlighting Black creators?" So we're in the same vein here of these conversations, right? Because obviously, Kind of Funny Xcast gets announced, and it's in the wake of the Do Better stuff and us having our Let's Talk Kind of Funny podcast and Black Lives Matter and everything else. And it is 3 white people, right? It is Gary, Mike, and Alana. And then, which, again, I think I shouldn't even get into that. We got criticism about that. Understandably so. Then you go into Nano's question here. He's bringing up like Kind of Funny Games Daily. We could add a third chair. You could bring in people that way and do this. For me, there's a lot to this question, obviously. I think go back to the Let's Talk Kind of Funny podcast, and it's like at the 1 hour, 59-minute mark is where we actually have this conversation about Kind of Funny Games Daily and how we use that platform. And a lot of people got honed in on it, right? Because it was the Black Lives Matter week we had done where it was, Blessing and Khalif and Paris and the list goes on. Sorry, I'm like trying not to burp. And there was this question that there was that happening there. And then there was the let's talk about in general the community and talk about ourselves and let's all be better and help each other out here. Kind of Funny podcast. And at the 1 hour, 59-minute mark, I talk about what we're doing over on Kind of Funny Games Daily, but also what we've learned about Kind of Funny Games Daily, and also how COVID's impacted Kind of Funny Games Daily, and also how, we had done the not up-and-comer program, but up-and-comer program where we're having different voices on, right? And that was just a thing we were doing to say, hey, you have a small audience, come on up here. And let's you've been recommended by the community, and you should come be a part of this, and you should come. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. You should come. You'd be shared with a wider audience thing. And then, of course, how we stopped doing that in the beginning of the year because we let somebody in who we didn't vet well enough. And then COVID happened. And then this is recapping now the Kind of Funny stuff, right? Then suddenly we're all working from home. And also suddenly like a bunch of different stuff happened at once on that level of us hiring Blessing, who was hired as the first full-time Kind of Funny Games person, right? Because obviously we all work on the same stuff, but he was hired specifically to do that, right? To be my full-time anchor on Games Daily, so that if it's not us together, it's one of us doing it with someone, right? And so then you have that, which was already going to shake up how much we needed to bring in outside help. Then on top of that, you have COVID happen, which then shakes it up even more and does move to us leaning to need to take care of our part-timers, right? To take care of Imran, to make sure Imran is still getting money from us and stuff like that. So there's this whole different concoction here that's going on. Thank you, Patrick, for saying that you think we're doing a great job elevating, supporting different voices. That is a core value for Kind of Funny in doing that. Of, hey, we want to make sure that as much as we can, we're supporting and showcasing opinions that aren't just, hey, I'm a straight white dude. You know what I mean? I think that's where, representation is a conversation that happens all the time and should happen all the time. I think that's where that conversation started in the industry in general, was we have enough straight white dudes doing this. And it was like, yeah, we do. How do you see that? How do you reflect that? How do you change what the face of, not games journalism, I hate calling it that, but online personalities, how do you change that to reflect what the actual community of your community is? And I think you look at Kind of Funny, and I'd like to think we've done that. I'd like to think we are on the path of doing that, right? Like, our hires come from within the community, which has led to, and I hate doing this, I hate like talking like about minorities or whatever, but that's led to what? That's led to Joey, that's led to Andy. I mean, Kevin was with Tim, but whatever, I'm tossing him in there. Blessing, Imran as a part-timer, Alana as, again, a woman, which I would have said, before everything really went crazy this year in a good way. Again, we need to be having these tough conversations about representation, and we need to be having actual looks in the mirror about this. But I would have told you that, with Andrea leaving Kind of Funny Games Daily as a regular, our biggest problem was not have, and this is a 2020 biggest problem, because obviously Blessing steps in to fill that, hey, I'm a strong black voice and I know games. It would have been that, hey man, we don't have a woman's perspective anymore, and we, bring in guest hosts or try to move around and do that. But even then, it's like I was talking about with 2020, you see the number of opportunities where we need a guest host start to shrink, and you start figuring that out. So for me, bringing in Alana is still being representative. And I know I've seen some of the criticism of like, okay, well, Alana's great and we love Alana, but Lana's well known. Like, what about elevating smaller creators? To which we get into this question that's really tough to go back to is, again, we're a 9-person team here, but it is this conversation of, okay, cool. Like, I don't have the answers on that thing. Like, to your question here, Nano, like, are there other plans in the works to continue highlighting marginalized people with Kind of Funny's platform? Of course there are. And I think the other interesting thing right there is that you get into a very interesting point where you say Kind of Funny's platform. So many people want to get hung up on one show, Kind of Funny Games Daily. All right, cool. They did the week of Black Voices, but then what? And like, I know we have Zombie Kills on tomorrow as I record this Kind of Funny Game Daily. She's coming in to join Blessing. But it's also the thing of, there's 9 people making at least 2 shows a day, usually a third, right? Like, all this different content. And so I think it goes, you can sit there and look at Kind of Funny Games Daily, but I think to then look at the broader picture and ignore Joey on Screencast, ignore us bringing Elise on in review, ignore Alana. And again, these are white women. These aren't women of color. Again, something that we obviously can improve upon as we move forward. But to have brought Blessing on full time, and again, I hate doing any of this because again, I'm as I've pointed out already in this episode, a 37-year-old straight white male. I am dumb. I don't know the intricacies of all this stuff. So I hate sitting here and being like, let's talk about this. But let me try to talk from a minority standpoint or whatever. But Blessing got hired in January because he was the right person for that job. He was the best person for that job. And so we brought him on to do that. And it wasn't at all, we brought him on because, we need a black person, right? Like, that was just cool. He's black. That's fine. That's what it's going to be. Now you get to this point where as we continue to, I don't know. This is such a weird thing of us trying to build this thing. We are building a foundation for a company still, and we are trying to do it in the right way and hire the right people and from the right places, being our community, and do all these different things. And it's bringing in the people we want for those tasks. And I think it's what we went back to earlier, tip of the iceberg about Kind of Funny and how, what we do and what you see. Like, I think it would be so easy to look at the XCast and be like, it's all white people. What the fuck kind of funny. And again, we want your criticism. We want your justified things. I shouldn't say that. We want your criticism. They don't need to be justified. I want to hear what you have to say. But I think to look at that and have that be the one takeaway is rough on us. It's rough on me. It's rough on the team and what we're trying to do here, right? Because it is the fact that adding, we have this show, right? And again, for the first time, we've been able to reach down and bring up Mike and put Mike on it and say, hey, Snowbike Mike, we've seen you from afar in the community. Not even that far. We've seen you in the community. We've watched your streams. You've been on shows for us before. I think it's important to point out that like Snowbike Mike hosting this job has not fundamentally changed Snowbike Mike's life. Snowbike Mike's life is not full-time kind of funny. It is still working a normal job, then doing his streaming because that's his passion, and then doing the show for us. He is, for all intents and purposes, and this is no insult to Mike, incredibly green. It's bringing him on to a show and saying, okay, cool, we want you to be part of this. We want you, a lesser-known creator, to do this because we believe in you and we see something in you. And at the same time, obviously, Gary and him are the ones who hatched the whole plan for the show and did this thing. And then it is about bringing in a partner that I think represents what I am but can do it for Xbox. And like we went around a lot of people. We had a lot of different conversations about who should be the third chair. Alana's name kept coming up, as I said. That's not a lie. But it was this different thing of, well, what about this person? What about that person? You know, and they were all very diverse. And it was that, again, tip of the iceberg. You don't see those conversations that didn't pan out. You don't see those conversations that got eliminated because of a certain thing. You don't see that there was movement there. Instead, to just get to see the end result and be like, that's fucked up. I feel it's fucked up for everything we did behind the scenes to do this, let alone the community and company we're trying to build here. Where it is that, you know, I see it all the time of just like people talking to us and saying, you know, we need you on this. And I say it over and over again, what I am and what our Kind of Funny's core beliefs are. And then there's this thing that disseminates into the community that becomes it becomes that binary shit I hate, where it's either Kind of Funny is the best community in the world or Kind of Funny is a toxic community, which isn't true at all, right? Like that's not how communities work. Every community, every community period, not even just community on the internet, every community has shitheads in it. I don't want the shitheads in it. I don't want the people who are assholes. I don't want the people who escalate a conversation and then get really fucking angry and start throwing around insults and start of course those people don't represent me. And just because they say that they're Kind of Funny best friends doesn't mean they are. That should be, I think, as clear as day, that if you can't have a civil conversation, if you can't talk to one another in a respectful fashion, you're not. But I don't know where to go beyond that. Beyond saying that, and obviously banning and stuff and having mods in there, which we're doing and talking to and trying to have our mods be, you know, actionable and ready to do this and the conversation. I think, you know, again, I'm not everywhere. It seems, at least from what I see when I look on a Reddit or when I look on comments, they're better since we're like, get the fuck out of here if you're an asshole. We need to keep saying get the fuck out of here if you're an asshole. But in the same breath, like me waving my finger at people, I've done it and it doesn't work the way I want it to work. Where I'm like, you're being an asshole, stop it. And they're like, fuck you. I'm like, oh, how the fuck are you here? I don't know what to fucking do. And so this is all over the place and we're just rambling now. But I mean, to the question here, to bring it back in, right? You know, we're trying to build something here and we're trying to make a platform, but we're also running a business, and the two aren't mutually exclusive. But it is that nothing we said is bullshit. Everything we've said is who we are and what we're doing here and what we're trying to do here and what we will continue to do here. Like, we're in this for the right reasons. We're in this to make the best community. We're in this for it to be the good part of the binary thing, that we're the best community on the internet. So this is all over the place, but you know how it's all wrapped up together, right? To Nano's question here, right, of just like, you know, why not add a third chair to Kind of Funny Games Daily? Well, again, I guess I kind of answered this already, but again, the podcast, I think, answers that. Like I said, at the 159 mark, right? It's because, number one, I mean, first and foremost, like, that's just not my vision for the show, period, is to have a third chair. Like, I don't want it. I want to have one-on-one conversations where they talk about the news. And so far, it's been working out really well. Why not add a third chair beyond that, like, very Greg Miller thing? And, of course, collaboration. 2 other hosts had 2 different ideas. It's a fact that we're a 9-person team, and I'm trying to take care of 9 people that are full-time, 13 people total if you include the part-timers, and get them paid. Because, like, one of the things we started with, so keep in mind this way. When we're doing the, for lack of a better term, up-and-comers program, not the Chloe Blessing thing, but we're bringing on smaller creators and giving them a shot and having them come out and say their thing. Like, that was very much like us being like, hey, take a shot, Slugger. Like, come on up here and do this thing with us, right? And we were giving the platform and what I would call the juice, like in wrestling, right? Of like, oh, we're going to put you over. You come on. You promote your Twitch channel, whatever it is. And, like, people know and they can go find you if they like you. When that cools off and we stop doing that, we then get to this Black Lives Matter week where it's like, all right, we're bringing everybody in, and it's not right to bring these people in who are our who are our direct peers, who are doing what we think that. And that's not even the right way to say it, I guess. It's not right to bring these people in for something we're doing and promoting and trying to make a statement with here and say, we're not going to pay you though. Come on in, give us your work for free, give us your talents for free. And that was the conversation when we did that. It was like, all right, cool. Let's never do that again. Now, I think that gets wishy-washy in some ways, where it's like, well, when you see me pop up on IGN Podcast Beyond or go collaborate on somebody's horror movie podcast, I'm not paid to go do that, right? That's not an appearance fee. That's me. That's collaboration. That's what YouTube is about. But so, like, if you're coming on to promote something or do something, blah, 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 but it's like, I want to start treating the spots, the co-hosting spots, the way I treated them with Andrea, the way we treat them with Imran, and with the way we treat them, I guess, in a professional sense. I guess that's the easiest way to go. Is that before there was the kind of like, oh, we're doing you a favor, for lack of a better term. Come on over here, show what you're up to. I think now we're into the professional aspect of that, of like, if we're reaching out and saying, hey, come be on the show, come do this thing for us, we should pay you for that. You're being paid for that, right? And so, to your question, Dan, again, I know I'm rambling, going all over the place, because this is how I talk. Your question of like, why not add a third chair? I wouldn't feel comfortable adding that third chair and not paying that person. And also, I think that you're talking about something, well, not really. No, that's the same thing, I guess. Like, we're still trying to do all this, and I think, we still are doing it, and we might not be doing it as much as certain people want. We might not be doing it as much as you want. And I understand that, and I hope you understand that we're still a part of this. We still want this, but we also have 13 people to take care of, and that I want to be able to go do their jobs. And that's not, I guess it doesn't sound weird. That's the aspect of it, right? Like, there's this push and pull between it of, I would love to have just, let's get everybody on. Let's bring, these people, you were great and you did this, and I like your stream, blah, blah, blah. Like, the problem there is that it's not science, but it's a fine line between, oh, this is cool, I'm getting to hear a new voice, and what the fuck, I subscribe to Kinda Funny and I listen to this show for X, Y, and Z, Greg, Blessing, etc. And I've seen us get too close with it before, where, again, you're seeing tip of the iceberg, where you see the show and you bounce. You listen to the show and you bounce. I'm the one seeing all the Reddit threads and the comments and the things like this that are, I like this person, but I don't know them. Like, I like it's the same way I talk about all the time where, I'm going to start a podcast, Greg. What do I need to do? I'm like, repetition. Do the same, pick your day, pick your time, and hit it every time. That's what you do, and that gets you involved in people's lives. That goes the same way for the cast of characters we have. And so I've seen it. We've been here 5 years. I've seen it time and time and time and time again. We're introducing Imran. We're introducing Jared. We're introducing Andrea started the show, so that doesn't really count as much. We're introducing a new voice. And the immediate thing is, I hate this person. I'm going to go on Reddit and flame this person. Yada, yada, blah, 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 blah. And then, sure enough, 6 months of consistency with that person, they really like them. They understand their take on games. And there's still a bunch of assholes who will hate them for no reason. But there's hey, I get what this is. And at first I didn't like it, but I do like what they bring to the table in X, Y, and Z. Like, there's a chemistry to this that I don't think is as easy. And again, this is Kinda Funny programming. This isn't me speaking for every podcast in existence or anything like that. There is a chemistry to this, and how much is too much, how much is right. And so for us, it is this balancing act of bringing on people, and how do we do that, and where do we go with that, and when is the right time. And I think back to this thing I was trying to make a point about earlier of like Kind of Funny's platform, right? I think it goes so far beyond Games Daily, whether it is bringing on, Steimer for Last of Us Part 2, whether it is, being way more active in terms of like, I know I need to retweet Khalif or Paris when I see that they're doing something great, right? I need to promote their shows beyond just giving it the heart like I used to. Again, going in and using the platform to say we don't want assholes and do this. Like, it's not. I think it's easy to look at one part of the machine and go like, oh, well, this cog isn't doing what I want it to. But when you look at the entire machine, I'd like to think Kind of Funny is doing that. And I mean, I could be completely off on this. I could be wrong, and I'd love to hear from you about that. But that's where it comes down to, right? Is that this is a constant learning experience and a constant growing experience. And right now it's about continuing to make this company, this business, this platform, this foundation bigger and better the correct ways so that we can continue to propagate our message that equality is good and you can fuck off if you're an asshole. So this was a long rambling question to one that wasn't even a question. One was just a compliment, and then another question from you. But let me know how I did. Ramus says monthly studio update. I already gave it to you, so you're fine on that one. Let's see here now. Mike Marshall says, "Hey Greg, hope all is well, at least as well as it can be in 2020. Exactly. I had a question about your work from home situation with Jen. Since the current work environment seems to be indefinite at this point, have you and Jen had discussions about moving your computer setups to different spots in the house? Maybe your setup moving into the bedroom or moving the living room design around. My wife and I currently work from home together in the same office, which can be tricky with having to get on calls and such. But since we both have laptops, we can move around a bit easier. I was curious if you guys have been having those conversations about moving around to keep things fresh, or if it isn't feasible with your setup. Much love, Mike." Yeah, we've had those conversations. For a long time, Jen was really gung-ho on moving me into the bedroom so she could be out here, I think, and open up the windows and have light on all our plants. So I bought a really long Ethernet cord, and then she talked herself out of it. I forget why. What changed? I forget. Do you remember? Access to... Oh, the bathroom. Oh, that was it too. Yeah, Jen's working on obviously a bunch of unannounced video games. I don't know how much they would love that she's on the middle of a video call and GameSpot walks out and get a cup of coffee, and then Kind of Funny comes out. Yeah, that would be part of it too. Like, there's a bunch of little things like that. For me, when I'm not recording something, I get away from this desk as fast as possible. If I'm going to be off camera long enough, I open the blinds and I try to get over to the kitchen table and work there with my laptop so that shakes it up, so that this is very much a performance center. This is a stage, and that is where I go get the real work done. And then the couch is usually leisure time of playing something or checking emails while I do something. So conversations that happen, but we do it the best with what we can. Garrett Finstad says, "How did the Eric Roberts interview come together?" Great question. So if you remember on a Kind of Funny podcast weeks ago, maybe even months ago now, we somehow got onto Reginald L. Johnson, and we were talking about him, and I was like, I want him on We Have Cool Friends. So I went to IMDb Pro. I found his agent. I hit up the agent, who didn't say anything, and then weeks later, I got a message. It was like, "Hey, did Reginald L. Johnson ever reach out?" I was like, no. And she was like, "Sorry, I passed this stuff over to his manager. That's the best I can do." I'm like, "No problem." And then she just goes, "Do you want Eric Roberts?" And I was like, "The guy from The Dark Knight?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, yes, we do." And I hit up Nick. I'm like, "Nick, do you want to interview Eric Roberts?" And he was like, yes, I do. And just for a second, man, fucking Nick Scarpino, he crushed that interview. I'm not saying I didn't have any expectations, but I didn't think it was going to be from the jump. They're talking about like cocaine use in the 80s. I was like, this is such a cool, and not even a joking way. Like, they're having a serious topic. And granted, Eric Roberts and his wife too turned out to be just such great guests. But Nick was so prepped. He had done so much homework. Nick blew me away on that interview. If you haven't watched We Have Cool Friends with Eric Roberts and Nick, go check it out. Chris writes in, says, "Is there a certain style of cuisine, Italian, Mexican, barbecue, that you enjoy cooking more than others? Are there certain styles that you haven't tried cooking yet but really want to?" Wow. Well, again, full disclosure, during quarantine, Jen's been cooking her feet off over there. So she's been cooking the majority of stuff. That I enjoy cooking more than others. I mean, Americana, right? Because I'm lame. I want my wings. I want my ribs. Again, I fall into the Khalif camp of oven-baked ribs over smoker ribs like Paris, because, of course, I'm in an apartment. But I don't know. Not really. I think I enjoy cooking everything, and I just cook what I cook, and I like that. Certain styles I haven't tried cooking. I can't cook rice to save my life. I'm so bad at it. I just can't ever get it right. And I know get a rice cooker, but I just don't even eat that much rice, I think, to justify the rice cooker. So like there's a whole bunch of different Asian style cuisines that I just have not touched. And I do stir fry all right. But there's, like even like sushi. I would love to make sushi, but like, and I know it's not even cooking technically, but you know what I mean? Making food. Calvin B writes in and says, "Hey Greg, outside of work stuff, are there things related to work, games, movies, etc.? Outside of work stuff and things related to work, games, movies, etc., what conversation topics come up most frequently around the office? And as a side note, if I may, how often do you find yourself having to save it for the podcast?" Well, Calvin, we don't work together that often anymore in the same room, so it sucks. When we did, I mean, it's the mundane bullshit of like, our friends. We all have the same friend group to some extent. So, what's going on this? You went out with this person, they said this, what's going on over there? The normal friend stuff. Keeping up with like, where he's going to work where now? That's what's happening. He's dating who now? But yeah, I think, and you see it on the shows too, where we start talking about something and I'm like, oh, it's like we were talking about before the show. Like, it's more save it for the podcast usually happens when we're setting up for the podcast. When we're getting into it and Nick's like, oh yeah, I'm just tired because last night I do it. And I'm like, oh, and then he starts getting into the story and like, no, stop. Why would you do this? Like, save this for the podcast. That's where it happens more than us being out and about. And it's like, oh man, can you please stop? Can you do this kind of thing? Barry writes in and says, "Hey, you Greg. I thought about posting this on the Reddit, but then remembered about Gregway and thought it could be straight from the source. It's a suggestion for We Have Cool Friends guest, Furious Pete. I don't know how possible this would be to organize, but Pete is, of course, one of the OG successful fitness and food YouTubers. In case you're not aware, Pete has survived testicular cancer 4 times, and in 2019 had his second testicle removed after chemotherapy didn't kill it on the 3rd go-round. His posting has dropped dramatically. The dude was a motivational bodybuilder and is now on TRT for the rest of his life, so it's pretty rough. But he's still out there and is a fascinating, funny, and positive dude against the odds. Would be great to see him on Kind of Funny content if that's something you and, of course, Pete would be up for. All the best, Barry." Barry, I don't know Furious Pete. I'm not aware of his work, but I will look into it for you and see if he would mesh with us. If you know him, I guess reach out for us. Julian Starr writes in and says, "What is something you haven't seen in a video game yet that you would like to see? A great Superman game. A fantastic, amazing Superman game. End of story, period." Julian Starr writes in and says, "Is there a place where Kevin or Barrett have talked about the software they use to record at home? I know you guys use Discord, but how do they record the screen? Also, how do they switch out graphic setups and put in gameplay while the hosts talk about it on Games Daily?" I can answer that to a little bit, like not the minutia. Julian, we use OBS for everything. I'm using OBS to record this right now. OBS, obviously, a free download, and when you get it, you can create scenes that then have different things going on in them. And so what'll happen is I'm using right now my webcam or my Sony whatever the hell cam. This is 4K cam that Kev got me. Is what I would use. I would have that go to Discord, right, to talk. But if I was filming Predator, if I had to run Games Daily, right, you'd have Discord open. You would then window capture Discord. You would then come in, you would window capture. So, okay, OBS, you go in there, you window capture Discord. You come in, you then break you make copies of the window capture. You then shrink, crop it so you have just the faces. You then put the overlay over it. Then you put any graphics you want to run in there as well. And that would be a scene that would be just the standard me and Gary talking to each other on Games Daily. Then you open another one. You start another scene where you have the web browser window captured. You have the same thing, Discord windows captured and cropped, and then you have it there. It's not easy, but once you get in there, it all makes sense and you figure it out. I would say if you're looking to do it, which I would imagine you are if you're asking, I would say, yeah, grab a OBS and get cracking. Carlos Jimenez writes in and says, "During the pandemic, I got into a continuous flow of working, playing, sleeping nonstop for the first month, which got me to develop some fatigue in my eyes and brain. I was getting dizzy with headaches. So I had to stop using so many screens for so long every day by the recommendation of the doctor. That got me into this weird thing called books or something. And with no images or nothing. But I kept the books on brand by buying and finishing Console Wars, Jacked, and Reality's Broken. It was the first time in my life where the one thing I loved doing the most was harming my health and was very frustrating to me. My question is, has this ever happened to you? Have you been unable to play a video game for medical reasons? My second question, any good video game book recommendations? I'm loving this new hobby. P.S. Thanks for everything you guys do. And sorry, broken punctuation English. You were great, Carlos. Don't worry about that. So Yeah, I guess the eye strain's a thing that happens. I have noticed my eyes hurting more because, again, I don't look at human beings' faces all day anymore. I look at the camera, the screen, this screen, that screen, that screen, over there, that screen, my phone screen. So I've been taking my glasses off more. I actually have an eye exam on Friday. And yeah, trying, my best to actually distance, like when we go out for a walk, not look at my phone for the most part. So there's that. I infamously had Destiny Eye when I played 12 hours of Destiny 2, where I broke all the blood vessels in my eye. That was the thing. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do this many hours straight of video games right now. And then I guess when I was, this is a weird one, I guess, but when I was doing chemotherapy, of course, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be great. I get to play Vita for 4 hours uninterrupted. And I was so sick that I couldn't play anything. You just sat there wanting it to be over. So that's it. In terms of video game book recommendations, I've never been somebody who's super into video game books. Obviously, I would recommend Dan Reichert's The Smartest Kid The Dumbest Kid in Gifted Class, Jason Schreier's Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. You already read Console Wars by Blake Harris, which is really, really good. Seems like you're on it, but grab Jason and Dan's books, go there. And then, of course, all the stuff that Boss Fight Books does. If you have a specific game you love, grab that. Like, I know we have over on the shelf right there, I think. Nope, shelf's not there anymore. Jen moved it. It's in there now. Nick Sutner did Shadow of the Colossus, and we have that. Brandon Jackson Shorts writes in and says, "Hey, Greg, I don't know if you've noticed, but I realize that I always ask serious questions here. I wanted something a little more lighthearted, but I can't. This is too important. What was your favorite color, and is there a reason for it? Has it changed over the years, and if so, why? Personally, my favorite color is red because the red Power Ranger was the leader. I understand that a lot. Blue, of course. I think it starts with Superman, and then just Superman, the super suit, the Christopher Reeve blue that then became, cyan for Kind of Funny. It all works out. The time's a flat circle. Andrew, the alarming emu, writes in and says, "Hey, Greg. Hope all is well in the MSTOJ household." I like that. Concerning platinums, I am fully head over heels in love with Ghost of Tsushima, and I've decided it will be my third platinum. Oh, shoot. Hold on. I didn't text wrap this one, so it's all crazy. Third platinum. You were saying in the review that you felt the story had a definitive end and you wanted to get everything done before that. My question is this obvious? I'd hate to go to the last mission unknowingly and still have stuff to do. I just started Act 2, but I'm going island by island doing everything. Thanks for everything and keeping me sane on my work nights. I work the night shift, driving a truck, so it really helps. Hey, no problem, Andrew. You say love. I love you too. You're the guy I'm always shouting out to about the trucks. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. Like, go through it and do it. Like, as you have a couple ones that are like, we're building towards it. There's clearly a momentum behind it. And like, I'm assuming you're paying attention to the story. So when it's like, we're going to go do X, you got to be like, all right, this is pretty much going to be the end of it. Just do that. Save the last, few serious story missions for the end. Ladies and gentlemen, that's another episode of Gregway in the Bank. Thank you so much for watching, listening, caring. Of course, I want your feedback. Feel free to tweet it at me. You can put it on the comments here on the Patreon thing. I can look at that. Yeah, but yeah, that's probably easier. Let's have a conversation in the Patreon comments because Twitter doesn't show me everything. It's a pain in the ass. So yeah, I love you. Thank you for your support. Now I'm going to awkwardly come over here and go stop recording.